Hey, Miami sports fans. Stop by Caneswear today at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida, and check out their awesome merchandise selection of your favorite South Florida sports teams. From the Miami Dolphins, Hurricanes, Heat, Marlins, Florida Panthers, and Inter Miami, they've got it all. Celebrate your favorite team and show off your fandom with their beautiful team starter jackets, killer-looking helmets, team jerseys, cool shirts, and more. And if you're out of town or out of state, no worries. Go to caneswear.com and find everything they have on their site. Select what you want and they will ship your gear to you. Anything over $99 is shipped for free. Don't wait. Stop at Caneswear today.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of On the Clock on the Finstock Sports Network, our live draft coverage show. I'm Bobby Finstock, joined by Coach Vogel. We are missing Josh Wingate this week. He's feeling a little under the weather, could not join us, but we had a good show nonetheless for you guys. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Presented by Greatest Show on Surf and Kingswear.
Significant.
Oh, because sound in the background.
My phone went off. Yeah, it was
ready to go as soon as we roll in.
Yeah, we're good, brother. We're good.
Coach, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm telling you what, man. This scouting thing is I'm loving it. To go from like the linemen who are always banging bodies and footwork and all that stuff to the safeties was they just kind of running around, you know.
This week this week has been challenging. Let's just openly admit that in regards to safeties. Because we're on a short week, we had a show on Wednesday, went to Monday. Of course, life, fatherhood, full-time work, all that whatnot. It's a little more difficult. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to try. And of course, we got a little more time before the draft to do more precise scouting. But I'm still confident in how we did. It's always fun. I love watching film. I love scouting. And we got an awesome guest talking about scouting. In just a little while, we have Mark Jarvis of jarvisscouting.com joining us. To give us his insight on the NFL draft, the combine, and we'll touch on Dolphins as well. So we're excited. He'll be joining us, too, for the War Room Simulator. So I'm excited about that. Also, I don't know. I did send him the link. We'll see if he joins. I haven't heard from him today. But Dave Stager, who was with us last season, will be with us this season covering the draft. I'm excited to get him on board.
The Stinky Cheese Man.
The Steak and Cheese Man. Packers fan. But we will miss Wingate today, so we don't have the cool little tickers and all that, but that's okay. Get better, brother. Yeah. We appreciate you. All right, let's move right along here. Let's talk about
latest news and rumors.
We're going to move this right along because, hey, why not? We got Mark Rady in the background. We don't want to hold him too long, but he's gracious enough to stick with us and to do the War Room with us. But, okay, latest news and rumors. The breaking news from Ian Rappaport today, which was kind of expected, that the Dolphins are not going to franchise tag or tag and trade Christian Wilkins, and he's expected on the open market to fetch $22 to $25 million. I'm going to be full disclosure. I brought this up in the past, so it's no secret. I believe, I love Christian Wilkins, part of the defense, love his energy, love all that whatnot. I'm not the Dolphins, but I wasn't comfortable with Miami giving that 22 to 20 million. I was like 18, and I guess I'll live with the 20, but not over 20. I haven't heard from you, Coach. I'd love to know what your thoughts on Christian Wilkins. Would you be comfortable with 22 to 25 million, or you're like, hey, you know what? Love you, but sayonara.
Man, if it were just a typical year and most of your stuff was taken care of, I would offer him that in a heartbeat. But there's so many holes that need to be filled on both sides of the ball. To me, it's going to be difficult to bring him back. I mean, as much as I want him to, as much as I want Miami to re-sign their own guys, it's tough to be able to fork out that kind of money for him. Now if Tua said the only way I'm going to sign an extension is if we can figure out a way to bring Wilkins back and use some of my money to do that. But I don't see that.
Now, and again, maybe that is Daniel. Great to see you. The rebuild has started. No joke. Dave Stager is in the house. We're going to get him in here in just a second. But I will say, maybe that is why Miami's saying, hey, we're not going to be able to give you over that $20 million. It's because they're going to have to work out that extension for the quarterback. So let's get Stager in here because, again, another unbiased opinion because he's not a Dolphins fan. He's a Packers fan. So
he is biased, though. He is biased.
There is some bias in there, when it comes to the quarterback. But let's bring him in, the one and only Dave Stager. What's up, brother?
Hey, I'm biased for telling the truth about bad quarterbacks.
No, I'm just joking, man. I'm
joking. Hey, first off, wait, hold on. How the hell are you, man? How's fatherhood? You had a baby? It's been a little bit, man.
I'm done having kids. I love my kids, but I'm done. No fifth. Fourth is enough. I'm good. So no, things are going good. Just doing work and fatherhood. Believe me, I've been missing doing the shows, and then I hopped on and watched On the Clock last week. I texted Bobby, and I'm like, "Let me back in." Especially draft season coming up. I love draft season. Man. You guys know that, so I had to hop back.
We love having you.
You sure?
Absolutely.
I do, man. I do. Don't hold that against me. That was back in high school. That was 40 years ago.
But all right, so we just talked about Christian Wilkins. I'm not sure if you caught what we were discussing. The Dolphins have decided not to franchise tag him. He's expected to get 22 to 25 million. Your honest opinion, at least from the outsider's point of view, is Miami making a mistake walk? Should they have paid the 22 to 25 million?
I think that's a little much, in my opinion. I love Christian Wilkins as a player, but the defensive tackles who get that top 5 money get after the quarterback, and that's where he lacks. Like I said, I love Wilkins' play. He's a top 5 run-stuffing defensive tackle. Back in the early 2000s and the 90s, it was coveted. Like, they love those guys. They paid them out the wazoo. Now, they want you to get after the quarterback and stuff the run. Do I think Christian Wilkins is going to get 22 to 25 million? Yeah, probably from a team that has a crap load of cap space. That's what I see happening, but I feel like, in my opinion, he's somewhere around the 17 to max 20 area. That's just me because of his run stuffing ability. And I'm not saying he can't get after the passer, but at the same time, I feel like he doesn't do it enough. I feel like for him to be mentioned up there with the Aaron Donalds and Chris Jones, those guys, the Javon Hargraves, like, you need to be able to have the pass rushing instincts in big game time moments, and he just doesn't show up. Like against Kansas City, you watch, Christian Wilkins wasn't near Patrick Mahomes the entire second half after the quarterback. And to me, that's the biggest flash GMs want right now, is if you can rush inside and create that pressure, that's going to be the biggest factor. Like, should Miami probably keep him on a lower end deal? Yeah, but
of course,
that's also Christian Wilkins. I mean, there could be you can meet in the middle here by Chris Greer standards too. What I've seen Gutekunst do for the Packers, and I'm just using an example because it's what he does. He and Russ Ball do a meet in the middle type contract where they still give him some value, but it's an incentives based deal. And like Preston Smith, last 2-3 years, he has went ahead and taken a pay cut on his base salary. But then if he reaches 8, 9, 10 sacks, he gets $500K, $1 million, $1.5 million. And I feel like a lot of those deals are starting to kind of creep in the NFL a little bit more. But I feel like that's where Wilkins could really thrive if he really wanted to bet on himself, re-sign with Miami for lower, stay in the guys you've been playing with, and give that incentives to yourself to be like, okay, let me prove it. Let me get after the quarterback.
No doubt. And I'll say this, and again, Mark Jarvis will be joining us from jarvisscouting.com, and he could tell us about something about for the defensive linemen, because from when I'm watching these defensive linemen, and Coach knows this, my favorite on film and who blew up on the scouting combine was Braden Fisk. This is the year. If you're going to lose a guy, you could get a quality lineman in this draft. Talking about linemen, let's go on the other side of the ball here to keep the ball rolling here. It's Robert Hunt, coach. That is a guy who is probably the most consistently good offensive lineman for Miami. And the Dolphins said, hey, we gave him an offer. he declined. He said he wants a test free agent. More than likely, that I read that he could get a big offer somewhere else, so we might lose him. So you add that to the possible retirement or an injury concerns with Terran Armstead. Whatever the hell is going to happen at guard. We don't know what's going to happen at center. Does Connor come back? Now you add in Robert Hunt. Your only main guy that's going to stick around is Austin Jackson.
Right.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How bad is that if we lose Robert Hunt?
Well, for me, I mean, you know, you've got to, at some point, there has to be a focus on drafting linemen and securing those linemen, you know, left to right. And the people that they seem to be bought in on don't show on film that they're starter level people. So if there's some way to be able to, you know, corral Hunt and keep him on board, I would hope they do that. You know, if not, granted, this is a very deep offensive line class, but to have, you know, 3 or 4 brand new people in the offensive line starting out, it's going to be rough.
No, absolutely, 100%. You know, if you lose Hunt, your Austin Jackson is the one that sticks around. Now, if you're able to bring back Connor Williams, that kind of, you know, that's okay because you got Connor. You got, all right, if Armstead comes back while he's healthy, the 7-8 games he's to be there, you're good there. But again, you lose Robert Hunt, you're consistently good offensive lineman for this football team. It's going to be a hole, especially when you need, everybody complains that Tua struggles after 2 seconds, and you're going to go into this offseason or into this draft possibly with down a very quality player. It's going to be tough to just of a pill to swallow. Stager, man, what are your thoughts on this Robert Hunt going into free agency? Can Miami afford to lose him?
I feel like there's other offensive linemen out there in free agency, but that's where Chris Grier has the hands tied of the Miami Dolphins. I'm staring at $31 million over the cap right now. That's even with the $30 million, the extra like $15 million they got plus on the cap max. So they can't really afford to go buy anybody right now, even if re-sign, let alone their own guys. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why Christian Wilkins can't get re-signed, and because they can't even franchise tag him because they can't afford it. They need to make room right now. That's the reason why Xavier Howard got let go. So you need to be able to make room, restructure some other folks, and to get back under. And you still got to remember, you got to save $5 to $6 million for your rookies. That's how much cap takes up. So essentially, you're looking at about $37 million right now that you have to account for to get under the cap and also pay your rookies. You're going to need, like, listen, I know everyone loves Tua in Miami. I get it. But at the same time, good quarterbacks take discounts and take their base salary and drop it. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes did it too. He dropped his base salary, took everything in a signing bonus, and that's why they're allowed to go in and sign all these players and bring in veterans and trade for them. It's just what good players do, and also the ones that kind of take their value and say, I want to ring more than my own value. I'm not saying Tua should take a discount. I know he's put up good stats the last 2 years, but at the same time, if you want to make a championship run, you've got to be able to.
No, and let me just say,
a little bit humble on there too.
I want to just to be fair here, because we were joking. Coach was joking a little bit earlier about Stager, because Stager, to his thoughts, but Stager did say mid-season about how he was impressed with Tua. But it's still
he looked good last year.
Yeah. So I do want to throw that out there. I don't want everybody. No, he was openly admitting that he was very impressed with Tua. Now, of course, we talk about the second half of the season, the end of the season. That's what dragged on. However, and that's why, again, it's a great point that he brought up with the Dolphins cap, $31 million over the cap. That's why people, even though some Dolphin fans are going to freak out over Tua's extension, even that. And Stager brought it up. A lower cap, maybe a higher bonus or guaranteed, that will lower the cap, and that will help the cap as well. You talk about Bradley Chubb. People were pissed off at that. That's another possible restructure. Tyreek Hill, another restructure. Now that's the hands tied behind your back for Chris Grier. That's the situation we've been put in, but that will help get that extension. But that's what I'm saying. There's some guys that people go, oh, we could get this guy. Slow your roll, chill out. Let's figure out the cap first, because it's more about let's balance out this roster with capable players, not just superstars. Because obviously we've seen Doesn't matter who you have on your roster. Not going to guarantee you any damn wins. Xavier Worthy. Oh, go ahead, Steger.
I'm just looking at the cap right now. If you go ahead and restructure, but the thing is with restructuring, you're kicking the can down the road. So you're ending up for an eventual atom bomb that's going to go off when the cap doesn't rise as much as you think it is, and then you got to go ahead and cycle players out, and you basically have to start a rebuild financially.
Is that something similar? Is that something similar to what LA did, the Rams, when they
so they basically restructured a ton to basically get that Super Bowl. They basically pushed a ton of money out. Packers did the same thing as well with Aaron Rodgers. They pushed everybody's money out, all these big deals, and it ended up blowing up. But at the same time, Packers sent on all their rookies last year, so that's what made it not as bad.
You lucky son of a bee. Those Packers,
Jordan Love, not me.
Hey, Jordan Love, dude. Good for you, man. That was awesome to see, brother. That was awesome.
It's just, maybe Green Bay knows a thing or two about the quarterbacks. If you sit them, draft them, develop them, just maybe it works. But no, I was going to say Bradley Chubb, $14 million restructure, Jalen Ramsey, 18. So there's 32 right there. But then you get a little more room if you restructure Hill for 12. But when I'm looking at cuts, you could cut Jerome Baker right now, save almost $10 million. So there's room to be had there and made, but it's all about does Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel want to go all in for a championship run? Like, that's the biggest question. If they do, they gotta go all in, push as many restructures as they can into the future.
Yeah, see right there, and that's the thing about this window. We'll move on to Xavier Worthy, who had himself an amazing, 4.21
record.
Tyreek 2.0. But before we do that, though, you bring up a good point. Because Miami's window, we've said this current window for this current team, it's here, it's shutting down. So Miami, that's where it's in. And Daniel brought it up earlier. The rebuild has started. The rebuild may start a year early. And of course, when you got Tyreek, a player of that caliber with Jalen Ramsey on the other side, just those two guys alone, those guys don't want to be on no rebuilding team. And it's not that Miami's throwing in the towel, but they're going to have to start really being very conservative and still bring in a contending type of team going into next season. It'll be very interesting what they're going to do with that 21st pick, which we're going to talk about later. Do they stick at 21, let the draft follow them, go with best player available? Or do they say, hey, you know what? Let's see who's there. Let's trade out of that pick and gain more picks to kind of balance out this roster with also the eyes for next year. Anthony Manzano asks, if Armstead retires, who do you guys think we draft to replace him? Because I keep on hearing rumors that this might happen this offseason. First off, it really, it's really about how the draft falls.
There's lots of tackles in this round.
Absolutely, and a lot of good ones. I will also say, if Armstead really does decide to retire, Miami needs to go knocking on Kendall Lamb's door and making sure he's on this roster next year. Go ahead, Stager.
If you're going to go all out, this is the type of move, and I'm going to say it, Tyrone Smith.
You muted, Bobby.
You're muted, Bobby.
Sorry, baby screaming in the background, trying to be respectful. No, absolutely. Veteran tackle. He's not going back to the Cowboys. Depends on how much you're willing to give and how much he's willing to take. But doesn't hurt. But Kendall Lamb did very well in place of Terron Armstead last season to start the year. I think he's I think he would be a quality player to bring him back. And if you got to draft some guy later on. I'll start with Stager on this one though, and then we'll move on to Vogel. Mm-hmm. Xavier Worthy. What did you think, man? Easy, 4.21. Does that mean he's worthy of a first-round pick?
I mean, there's always GMs out there that love the speed, and I think if he's going to go in the first, it's going to be somewhere in like the late teens, then on all the way down to 32. There's going to be some team that, heck, think about it. Patrick Mahomes' arm and what he can do. Think about him if he lands with the Chiefs. And
that's the team I'm thinking is the Chiefs.
That's literally Tyreek Hill 2.0. And the thing is, everyone says, oh, he's too light. He's 160 pounds. Okay, well, then why does Isaiah Pacheco do so well in the Chiefs? He's a smaller guy, does well, plays in the cold. Tyreek Hill was a smaller guy, played well in the cold. So I feel like every player bulks up. And you also have Devontae Smith. He plays at 175 right now. Xavier Worthy can easily put on 10 pounds of muscle, or even 15 in the weight room, and be fine. I mean, I just feel that the whole excuse of the lightweight stuff, the only guy I didn't like it is Brett's guy we saw last year was Deuce Vaughn. I couldn't stand him. He literally got hurt in preseason after watching him. It just proved my point. But the running backs take more abuse than wide receivers. Wide receivers, I feel like Worthy, definitely someone would take a chance with a first on him, especially setting the 4.21, because John Ross, to me, wasn't a projected first-round wide receiver. And then, boom, got the 40, and he went. I mean, Darius Hayward-Bay, same thing. Yeah. Speed came out. L. Davis fell in love, saw gold. And I just think someone's going to take a first-rounder on Worthy. Now, that's the thing. He is a talented guy. I watched him at Texas. We all did. And the kid can fly. It's not even just deep routes. He can take a 10-yard pass, and we've seen him go on the outside, juke a defender, and then cut back on the same speed without losing any miles per hour to go.
Yeah.
And I just feel there's going to be teams. I mean, if you want to put in, I hate to say this, but if you really want to take a team that needs another weapon that might get rid of another one, Buffalo Bills.
So I want to, Coach, I'll get your response on Xavier Worthy. It's not just Dolphins, brought up the Chiefs. Dave brought up the Chiefs and all that, but just, is he, as an overall prospect, is he worthy, pun intended, of a first round pick?
I agree with Dave. I think there is somebody that will fork out, that will go after him for his speed later in the first round. You look at all the speed that Miami's assembling. If he were their second, third round, whatever, I could see Miami going after him. But at 21, hell no. We have too many other needs that are going to be very good, very, very
quarterback. Good. What?
There it is. Just talk about receiver very quick, Coach. And I don't know if you saw Tyreek Hill on his live stream. That he said that he got confused and was saying that it was Malik Nimbers, but he was really talking about Brian Thomas from LSU. They asked him, who would you want at 21? He was like, we need that big receiver out of LSU. He's talking about that. Would you be down for that?
Still think there's bigger needs than wide receiver at 21.
Offensive line.
Yeah. Where I'm going 100% of the time.
The trenches, baby. Trenches.
I'm going center. I'm going offensive guard. I'm going tackle, defensive line to replace, Wilkins.
Hey, JPJ, the center from Oregon. Yep. I mean, he's climbing boards in 21.
That's who we want. I just don't know if he's going to be there, especially now that Philadelphia lost Kelsey. I think Philadelphia.
To be to jump in on your time, buddy. I was just trying to.
That's who everybody. That's what we've been saying, but I just don't think he's going to be there. I think Philadelphia will jump us or whoever. I don't see him being around at 21.
All right, we're going to bring in Mark in just a moment. Let's go ahead and run down our top 5 safeties.
Player rankings per position.
Make sure I got the right stuff here.
God.
All right. And it's okay if you don't, Dave. I just want to make sure. Do you have your top 5 safeties for this year's draft yet or no?
Yes, sir. I did make my list.
Oh, good. All right. Awesome. All right. Before we'll get to you.
Unprepared. How dare you?
No.
Treat me like Eric Bischoff on
come on.
Thursday Thunder.
Had to go there. And congratulations to Sting on his retirement.
That's right.
Thank you, Sting.
I can't believe I didn't go. It was right here in my backyard, and I didn't.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, I'm mad at myself.
I don't want to shave your beard for that. That's punishment right there.
Shame on you, Coach, brother. We don't have the videos, the normal stuff we usually do, but that's okay because we were all, like I said, it was just a crazy week. However, who are your top 5 safeties? I know we had a short week film-wise. We didn't really get time really to dive in, but we got enough in. But who are your top 5 safeties with your brief look into this year's class?
Oh, do we have the thing? Let me grab mine real quick. It's right. I have it pulled.
Oh yeah, let me see if I could. Did you send it?
Yeah, I sent it through the thing. I'll tell you about my number 1 because I was the only one that.
And you're asking me if I have a list ready? Jesus.
Well, normally it's on the screen and I can just read from the screen, but
so Jaden Hicks was your number 1 out of Washington State.
Yes, Jaden Hicks. I love Jaden. And I don't know if it's because he was the first one I watched Sunday morning after watching all these other guys, but I just felt like whenever I watched the film, wherever the film ended, he was in the picture somewhere. I liked his open field tackling ability. I felt like he came down in the box when he needed to. And I didn't see him in many press man situations. More, considering was a safety playing off ball, but I felt like he was all over the field. Hips breaking right or left, going up field, and just felt like he brought a lot to the table. And I know that I had him higher than most everybody else, so I'll take any gut punches that I need to when. But the others, I think you and I were similar, Bobby, with the other four, I think.
Yeah, you had Javon Ballard, Georgia, for number 2.
Yeah.
Cameron Kitchens, Miami safety, at number 3. Cooper DeJean, who was, he was on the corner area, but he has that versatility. And you have Tyler Nubin from Minnesota as number 5. Yeah. I will say this about Jaden Hicks. I got to watch him more today. I liked what I saw from him. Yeah. Let me see. I got our top 100 list very quick. I just want to see, because there was another guy too. And because again, there were some of them that we were late on. To have him here. Nubin. In yours, and you gave Jaden Hicks, and again, this is not perfect because again, we're gonna as the offseason goes on, our grades will change because we'll get a second, third, fourth look, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. You had a 7.02, so that's why he was your number 1. Yeah. You liked what you saw from him. I did. And I liked what I saw from him too. I did give him a 6.21. So we have an early second round grade on him. I think once it averages out. One guy that stood out to me who's not in the top 5, but I liked what I saw from Texas Tech was Dadrian Taylor Demerson.
Y'all taking my guys.
Sorry.
Oh,
he's not on my top 5 list, but I saw him today, and let me tell you something. Player. I loved what I saw from him.
I didn't see film on him.
Once you watch him, you're gonna flip because he's one of those guys that same thing with Brady Fitz. He caught my eye and I was like zoning. Yeah, dude. Okay, so. For me, I'm sorry. Let me go with Stager first. Stager, yes, your top 5, sir. What are your top 5? Safeties?
So my first starting off guy going up to the Midwest, Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota. I think he is a very physical safety, but he's got good range, and everyone keeps saying like, "Oh, he's a late first." I think it's some teams might take him a little bit sooner. I think you got Nubin there. You got Cameron Kitchens there. Yes, Kitchens. Okay, Cameron. I'm going to say this right now. Cameron Kitchens had a bad combine. It is what it is. When you go watch his game tape, that is not the player I saw in those Alabama Athletics. That kid can play. He's one of the best covered safeties in this draft. So, Tyler Nubin, I love the way he plays. He's not afraid to go lower the shoulder, not afraid to be able to.
Let me mute. Sorry. God. There we go. Now keep going. Sorry.
Damn Bears fans. Number 2, I have Cameron Kitchens. I actually had him at 1, but I just love Nubin's tape. I love the way he plays. And Cameron, there's nothing wrong with that. But Cameron Kitchens, I just wish, as big as he is, I wish he would hone up on his tackling. That's my biggest issue with him. He misses a lot of tackles. He's a ball hawk for sure, but as big as he is, I thought he'd have better pursuit angles on ball carriers for running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. I feel like he'd do really well with that. Number 3, Cooper DeJean. That's my white boy Rick. Love him. Cooper DeJean reminds me a lot of Brian Branch last year. He can play a lot of different spots, nickel corner, outside. He can play the safety. He can be able to put him wherever you want. And a lot of teams are projecting him into safety now. They're not projecting to the corner anymore. They're projecting him straight, free range safety because of his length, his range. Number 4, my guy Bobby took.
Dadrian.
You son of a bitch.
I'm
It's
sorry.
Adrian Thompson. I always forget his last name. I always call him. It's like DRT or something like that.
Yeah, let me see. Taylor Demerson.
There you go. He has really good freaking range. As Bobby said, hey, Coach Vogel, go watch him. I promise. You're not going to be disappointed. He can definitely fly all over the field. And the thing is, he plays in the Big 12, so everyone's like, oh, all they do is pass all over the defense. Texas Tech with him gave up very few yards compared to other Big 12 teams, and he was a big part of that back end holding up. Last one, Utah, Cole Bishop. I think he's not getting enough love. Cole Bishop is a big physical safety, and he can move. I feel like he has very good ball instincts, and a lot of people are overlooking. And I feel like Utah being out west, I feel like that also kind of hindered them as well in that conference. I feel like Cole Bishop's definitely one of the guys you want to keep your eye on. Another one for a dark horse prospect later on, even though he doesn't believe in aliens, is Tyler Owens. Mr. Aaron Rodgers' disciple of all the craziness of outer space, flat earthers. Tyler Owens is another one to keep your eye out on.
There you go. Good for you.
Yeah.
Having it such short. Let me ask you: have you been able to pull? Did Wingate send you the stuff yet? And did you get the?
Yeah, I was going through and I was looking at the grades and
nice.
Yeah, I've tried to pin some grades to it. I'm still kind of.
Oh no! You need help? Let me know, man. It's been so much fun.
It's been fun, yeah.
It's been. I love the way it's all set up.
I watched it last week and I saw how y'all were putting like 6.99 and stuff like that on there. So
it's been a lot of fun. All right, so for mine, let's move this on. We'll get our guest in here. So yeah, number one for me was Taylor Newbin out of Minnesota. Loved what I saw to him. 6'1", 199. What stood out to me was his instincts, knowing how to play, letting the play develop, knowing where it's going to go to stop the ball. Very good tackler, very good read. I could see he could read the quarterback's eyes. He stood still. He's like following, got that interception to make the play on the ball. Number two, Cooper DeJean from Iowa, 6 foot, 203 pounds. Again, plays corner and safety. Great ball skills, has starting experience at safety and corner, which should get him early playing time. Explosive athlete who should be able to make an immediate impact day one. Cam Kitchens, number 3, 5'11", 203 pounds. Versatile defender, great instincts, ball skills, had 11 interceptions in 2 seasons and could have similar production in the pros. I'm with Stager, though. One thing I did notice, can miss some tackles. Kind of gets a little hot, goes in hot, misses a tackle, trying to make that big play. Number 4, Bo Braid out of Maryland, 6'1", 210. Yeah, he may be 4th on my list, but he's maybe my favorite watch. But after today, of course, with Adrian, I liked him too. But this guy, high energy, physical, versatile safety, reliable run defender, and pass deflector. Loved what I saw from him. That's a guy if you haven't seen him yet, take a look at him. And number 5, Javon Ballard, Georgia, 5'11", 195. Smart, instinctive safety with eye-catching ball skills and good coverage ability. A little small for my taste, but I like him. He's my 5th right now. Let's go ahead and let me read some comments here. Coach, okay. I was like, Coach is in the house. He's right there. Dave, I agree with you. This is from Anthony Manzano.
That's a rarity.
Yeah, I really don't care about these performances at the combine. I care more about the play speed, and Kitchen plays faster than his performance at the combine. What are your guys' thoughts from the safety Texas A&M Richardson? Let's see. Who are we?
He needs to work. He needs to work on his coverage. He has trouble on angle pursuits on some deeper routes. It doesn't get back far enough sometimes.
There you go. All right. So go pop this up here and let me fix this. Moving on up. We're going to bring in our guest for today, a special guest. I'm excited about having him on. Credit to Mr. Brett Lagasse for working this out. Got Mark Jarvis of jarvisscouting.com. Pop him in here. Bear with me. Save. Just making sure it all works. Bam! Mark Jarvis, jarvisscouting.com. Mark, how are you, brother?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Doing all right, man.
We're
Just
better
excited.
since you're here.
Yeah, that's right. Now we're doing great. But yeah, man. So first off, before we roll, just let's hear about you. Talk to us about jarvisscouting.com.
I'm always bad at these type introduction type things. So I'll kind of cover what I do. So I have my hands in a lot of different things. So like I did the Lindy's magazine. I don't know if you guys picked that up from any of the stores. I've done that every year for the past like 5 years or so.
That's awesome.
With Jarvis Scouting, I help agents. So right now I'm actually looking at guys for not this upcoming draft class, but the class after that. So I'm helping before guys even, get their grades from the junior days and all that from the NFS and Blesto scouts. I'm helping agents try to find guys early on. And then I post a lot of stuff on Twitter, different ways of just trying to improve accuracy on predicting where guys are going to go in the draft and so on and so forth. So like I said, I got my hands in a lot of different things.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. So Lindy's Draft Magazine, I would buy that all the time. I buy that every year. So I'm excited. That's pretty cool that you're working on that currently. Let's see here. Make sure I have all of it. We'll read that in a little second, Anthony, a little bit. But the NFL Combine is in the books. It was an exciting combine. A lot of guys stood out, definitely rose their draft stock. In your opinion, Mark, watching this and as deep as you get into this, who really helped their stock this season, in your opinion, and maybe who's hurt it the most?
So I got a list here I got a bunch of guys that are stock up for it and a bunch of like maybe 4 or 5 guys that are stock down for it. And I will say first that I think very much in terms of like when you say stock up, like I think a lot of it is not necessarily that these teams are pushing these guys up far up the board, right? It's not like you're turning a 7th rounder into a 3rd rounder based on, well, this guy tested like this. But the teams that already love the guy, let's say I go into the combine and I think this guy's a 3rd rounder, he's a freak athlete. Everyone else might not feel that way, but I like him that way. If he tests like that, then it kind of confirms what I thought, and it kind of confirms that I liked him, right? So going down the list here, Isaac Guerrero, Louisville running back, came in at 5'11", and just a smidge under 6 foot, 221, ran 4.33. He's a guy I've been keeping my eye on. He wasn't super productive at Louisville. Wisconsin transfer, I think only had like 800 yards last year, but he kind of reminded me in terms of the profile of Pacheco when he came out at Rutgers. So I think the league might kind of correct the other way where Pacheco fell a little bit down into the 7th round. I think he might end up going more in that 3rd, 4th range now after his testing. Another running back, Jalen Wright. He kind of confirmed what I thought. I thought he was going to be a 4.3s guy, super athletic, twitched up guy, and it showed in terms of what he did on the field there. And then, I think when you get to that like 4.3 level, when teams see that 4.3 instead of 4.4 on the card, they kind of perk up a little bit. It helps make that decision a little bit easier. We could almost, if you guys wanted to, we can go if you have certain positions you're interested in, or you want me to just go down this list of guys. I don't want to sit here and just, go over like 12, 15 guys and just ran at you. But.
No, dude, we love it. Chip. Yeah, dude, no, it's absolutely cool. Obviously with Miami, for instance, just talking to obviously their needs, we're talking linebackers, and Coach Vogel, you could correct me if I'm wrong. We're talking linebackers, offensive linemen, defensive linemen right now. They're going to lose Christian Wilkins, apparently. So,
QB.
Of course, there it is. But I will say, no, and all jokes aside, I've been saying this for 21, and I know Vogel's saying about we have bigger needs. Do not, and I think Scotty just said it too, that he thinks there'll be a switch up this season with Chris Greer, that there might be, he might be looking at receivers and corners with the first 2 picks and offensive linemen later. But my thing is, and Coach knows this, my philosophy with Miami this year, I believe, do not sleep on any position other than quarterback, of course, unless one of those top guys fall, other than quarterback at 21. So, man. So, you just even running back. I'm looking at, we're looking at power back, I think is a possibility. Not at 21, apparently, obviously later in the draft. But, so I don't know if there's a specific position. So I think you just running down your list is pretty cool just to see, maybe guys we haven't heard of. That's pretty neat too.
Yeah, well, I heard Tyler Owens get mentioned. I was pretty disappointed that we didn't get to see him because it looked like he was going to test freaky. And he's been billed as this. Maybe he's the first pure special teamer off the board. 6'0", so 6'2" and 1/8 inch. 216 pounds and 33 and a half inch arms, jumped 41 in the vert, had a near record setting broad. And the talk was, hey, he's going to run 4.2s. Obviously we didn't get to see him run that. I don't know if it was, he pulled something or I can't remember what happened with it, but I was really hoping we get to see that because he could have been one of the freakiest athletes in this class. You mentioned defensive lineman, offensive lineman. So I got a bunch of offensive lineman, defensive lineman here. Tanner Bortolini out of Wisconsin was a guy really caught my eye there. He kind of tested as I expect him to. He looks like a freak on tape. Had a 4.94 40, very good agilities. Question with him is going to be the arm length. So he came in at 31 4/8, 47 inch. So he's kind of maybe a center only type guy. Maybe if you feel comfortable with shorter arm guards, he could be a guy that could be interesting. Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. I thought he'd be more of that 5'3" range, big, strong power guy. Maybe not the longest guy, but a guy who really, when he touches you, he can knock you back. I was surprised he ran as fast as he did. I thought he would be a little bit less of an athlete. So that's the guy that I think the people who did like him are really going to fall in love now post-combine, saying, hey, we verified he's a pretty solid athlete too. Going down the list here, Amarius Mims. I know he didn't do, all the on-field stuff, and they posted a shuttle time that was wrong for him. He didn't actually do that, but you're talking about a guy's 6'8", 340, 36-inch arms, 11-inch hands that ran a 5.07. Like I would say there's 3 or 4 of those every year. That's about all we get of guys in that type of range of just freak athlete, and he's in there. Further down the list, just another few guys that's really stood out in terms of the body type, and then I'll touch on, I think, kind of the darling of the defensive tackle group. So 3 guys that stood out body type wise, and these 2 of them I kind of knew what they would be because they were at the Senior Bowl. Miles Cole, 6'6", 278, nearly 37-inch arms, around a 4.67. 4.67 is going to be the big number there. And so is for Eric Watts, you're in a 4.67 as well with similar measurements. Both those guys, we knew they're big, long, these high-end potential guys who haven't really uncapped that potential in terms of what they do on the field. But running as athletic as they did, is really going to stand out to teams when they're kind of stacking the board and going through, hey, what do the analytics say on these guys? Mason Smith, LSU, is a guy I really liked off tape. I think some people thought he had a down year this past year. I still really liked him. Maybe I'm just more of a, height, weight, speed, length type of, prioritization over everything else. But 6'5", 306, had small hands, but 35-inch arms, ran a 5.01. Really kind of checks all the boxes I look for in a nose tackle. I know some people like the smaller guys. I don't really care as long as you're big and strong and long. As long as you're not getting blown back when guys make contact with you, I'll always take bigger and longer all day. And then the last guy I wanted to mention was Braden Fisk, who I know a lot of people were excited about. He ran that 4.78. I did not see that on tape, man. I thought Fisk was going to be maybe a 4.9s, 5.0 type guy. I thought he was a good athlete. I didn't think he was that type of athlete. So I saw a little bit of buzz of, hey, maybe this guy's going to push up into the first, second round. I think the teams that loved him are going to be fine with that. I'm curious to see how teams end up valuing that arm length, though, because he is 31-inch arms.
Interesting. And yeah, when I watched, we watched defensive linemen the last week, I believe, or it was the week before. Was it the week before or last week, Coach? He's muted.
Last week.
Thank you, sir. So Braden Fisk, when I watched him, we were watching D lineman. I was really looking forward to watching T'Vondre Sweat because I'm like you, Mark. I love size, and so I was like, and when I watch Sweat, I see why people love him. But I also saw some consistency compared to Byron Murphy, who was always going, where Sweat looked like he could, take, not, I don't want to say take plays off, but he just wasn't always that high motor. When I put on Braden Fisk, I mean, he jumped out. I mean, high energy, all over the place, involved in every other play. So before you saw this scouting combine, what were your thoughts on Fisk as a player? Do you think he's worth the hype that people are giving him now?
I can actually pull up my notes real quick if you want.
Awesome.
If you don't mind.
Beautiful. Yes, sir.
So give me 1 second. And
busting out the Rolodex.
So I was a little bit lower on him, and I think part of that was just being harder on the athlete and also harder on the length, right? So like I mentioned, a lot of times I'm looking for guys close to that 32, 33-inch arm length, kind of as a bare minimum. I didn't know what his arm length was going to be prior to the weighing in and all that when I wrote my profile on him. I think – so I'll go to my list here. I for strengths, I said great urgency and energy, very active hands, gets skinny between gaps, great athleticism, nimble for his size, has the athleticism to kind of move around the line, plays with good pad level, quick to shoot his hands up and disrupt passing lanes, really aware player, kind of relentless high motor guy. Weaknesses were very sought off. That lack of length really created some issues. I think he had a hard time shedding blocks and finishing as a tackler. I think I put down that I think a lot of scouts will write him off as physically average. I think that's going to, if scouts do that, I think going back now, looking at after that test, and they're going to be like, okay, the college scouting director is going to be on him like, hey, you said he was physically average. I don't know about that. And then just kind of got washed out a little bit too much for me in the run game. So when I wrote the profile, this was back in November. I thought more of that 4th, 5th round type range. Based on how he tested, one, I'd want to go back and watch more and verify that, considering he looked like a different guy to me on tape then versus what he tested like. And 2, there's no way he goes that far down now unless he's got medical. So I would say he's probably comfortably in like the 2nd or 3rd at this point, maybe if not higher. We'll see kind of as the pro days unfold and we get more information closer to the draft where teams actually value him. I don't think it's going to kick him up to like top 15 or anything crazy, but I think it's certainly going to be. He's moved up quite a bit in terms of what the expectation should be.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I would love it if he, if we didn't grab him at 21 and he's there and sitting in the 2nd round and we pick him up to replace Christian Wilkins, I'd be down with that, 100%. Let's step away from Miami for a sec. Well, is there anybody? Forgive me. Is there anyone that hurt their stock in your opinion, or that maybe a team said, hey man, this guy is worth that 15th, 20th pick or whatever, that now they're like, no, this dude is 2nd rounder, 3rd rounder.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody that was that high to like 15, 20 that I think kind of fell down. I had a list of 5 guys here. So Audric Estime from Notre Dame. I thought he looked like a pretty mediocre athlete on tape, to be honest. I thought he was going to be high 4.6s, maybe 4.7s type of guy off tape. So I had him lower in that 5th, 6th round. I think he kind of cemented that. I know some people were talking about him like he's a running back 2, running back 3 in the class. You're not going to be if you run 4.7. So he ran a 4.71. He's probably going to be more of that late round. Maybe a team really likes him and they're really comfortable with that time. But I think a lot of teams are going to take him off the board if that time doesn't improve at his pro day. Still a lot of time, right? He could go to his pro day and he could run 4.6s, low 4.6s and be fine. People aren't going to be as worried about that, but he'd be a guy that I'd circle. Jatavion Sanders from Texas came in 6'4", 245, ran a 4.69. I thought he'd be in the low 4.6s. I don't think it kills him, but I think the talk of, hey, he's going to be tight end 2 in this class for sure. I think that's going to die out a little bit with some of the other testers out there. Guys like Theo Johnson, for instance, might be a little bit more. I don't want to say they get pushed up boards by any means, but I think teams would be more comfortable with that type of profile than what Sanders has. Braylon Trice from Washington, he's one that really worried me. And he's one where you might see he goes from this late 1st, early 2nd on a lot of these mock drafts down into the 3rd, 4th round. I kind of expected it. I'll be honest. I didn't think he would be a great tester. I thought he'd be a 4.7s, 4.8s guy. But he was listed at 270 in the season, right? So he's supposed to be this big, powerful rusher, almost like a Carlos Basham, which you guys watched him out of a couple years ago at Wake Forest. So he came in at just under 6'4". He came in at 245 instead of 270. 32.5-inch arms, so not the longest guy. It doesn't have big hands. And then he goes out and runs 4.72 at 245. It's like, okay, well, what would he have run at 270? Would he be a 4.8s guy? Would he be a 4.9s guy? Like, what is he running if he comes in at 270, right? So I think he was kind of expected to have a below average combine. I think it was even a little bit more below average than expected. So he's one that I would note, probably going to be going down in that 3rd, 4th round. Just almost kind of reminded me of, you remember Bradley and I, when he fell, he was hyped up as this 2nd round type guy and then ran a 4.9. I think it was the combine or the pro day and he fell down. Kind of reminds me of that. So I'm curious to see if he improves his numbers pro day or anything like that. Kalen King from Penn State, guy who had a lot of hype early on in the season. Had a rough season and then ran 4.61. 4.6 is kind of the cutoff line for corners. If you're below that, teams really start getting worried about it. So he's one I'd circle for, hey, is he going to go back and have a better run at a pro day, or is he just a 4.6s guy? He's not the biggest guy. If you're 4.6s and you're 6'2", 210 at corner, okay, maybe you're a safety. Maybe we can figure something out. But when you're below that and you're kind of in that 190 range, sub 6 foot, and you're running 4.6, it gets scary. One last guy, Cameron Kenchins from Miami, ran a 4.65. I don't think it's a deal breaker. Safeties teams, I think, are a little bit more willing to deal with those 4.6 type safeties. Jair Brown went to the 49ers 3rd round after having a similar combine. So I don't think he's like going to plummet, but I think some teams are going to kind of circle that number and go, hey, did we think he was faster? If we did, how comfortable are we with this number? Again, all these guys have a chance to improve it at their pro day. We'll see if any of them have better runs over the next month, but hopefully we'll get some more answers on those 5 guys if they can kind of go back up.
Mark, I got a quick question I wanted to ask on a player. I feel like his tape, I loved his tape, and I just feel like his name's not popping up enough, I guess, to me, is the Ruke Arrohoro from Clemson.
Yes.
I love the way he plays.
Ororo.
How do you feel about him?
Gotcha. So I will say he's a guy that I did not do for Lindy's. I did like every defensive tackle except like 3 or 4. So he was one of the guys I did not do. I will say I watched him the year prior because I thought he was going to come out the year prior. I liked him quite a bit. I think if I remember correctly, my comp was something along the lines, and you probably won't like this comp, Taven Bryan. So he's a little bit more of a linear guy, a little bit more upfield rusher. But still, I mean, Bryan was a first rounder. I don't think Root's going to go that high. But from what I remember of him, I just remember a guy who was decently athletic, knew how to get after it as a pass rusher, needed to be a little bit better with leverage in the run game. But again, that's going back to what I saw in 2022. So
yeah,
I like him. I think based on what I've seen for his testing, what the other guy for the Lindy's magazine wrote about him, and just what I remember from 2022, I would say probably in that 2nd, 3rd round range.
10-4.
And he's still a raw athlete. He didn't play. I don't think he played high school ball. I think was it basketball or something. So there's still some
track and field as well.
Yeah. So I liked what I saw from when I looked at him. I think he is an untapped potential. Anthony Madonna. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
How did you guys feel about him compared to Tyler Davis? Did you watch Tyler Davis at all from Clemson?
Yes.
I have not had a chance to watch Tyler Davis yet.
I prefer Tyler Davis. He's another one that I like. I guess I like the raw athleticism from Rojo, but Tyler Davis, man, it's the guy that I feel like last year's Clemson defensive tackle who went to the Saints. I feel like they're, I don't know. Brad Brisset, I feel like, yes, he had a little bit of a better tape, but I feel like Tyler Davis did a lot of the dirty work, and he was in almost every play when the ball carrier was coming his direction, and he made plays nonstop. I feel like Tyler Davis was a fun prospect.
Let's see here. Mark, you do have a question here. I do want to get that here. If you could answer that. Do you believe the rumors that the tackle from Penn State is going to fall out of the top 10 because of his performance at the Combine?
Oh, falls, good Lord.
That's an interesting question. I would say when you get up that high, it's really just, I don't want to say it's kind of like a luck of the draw type thing, but you're talking about the difference between a couple of picks, right? Like it could just be team preference, right? Like, for instance, if let's say teams picking 7, 8, 9, right? Let's say, what are the odds all three have? Let's say Fuaga over Olu. Does that mean most teams in the league are going to have Fuaga over Olu? Not necessarily. Does that mean maybe, how does their board stack up? It's really tough to predict exactly where a guy's going to go after he gets outside of that. Like we know maybe like the first 3, 4 picks. And then it's really subject to just what each team's preferences are, right? Like I remember, like as an example of this, right? Will Levis falling. So when Will Levis fell, it was such a surprise because everyone thought, okay, he's a first-round player. But if you start stacking up these teams that need these certain positions, like all it took was 2 or 3 teams that were left in the first round, like the Bucks, for instance, that needed a quarterback and said, we don't like him. There's no landing spots left, and he falls, right? So maybe you have, let's say, Alt Fuaga go like somewhere in that first, 8 picks. How many landing spots are left for Olu? Does a team have to trade up for him? If those teams sitting at like, I don't know off the top of my head the draft order, but let's say like 8, 9, are those teams looking at other positions that they're prioritizing?
Falcons are at 8, Bears are at 9.
So yeah, so like how interested would the Bears be? Like, okay, Falcons, are they going to go QB or are they going to go somewhere else? What else? So it's tough to kind of predict, is this guy going to be top 10 or not? When you start kind of going through that, and like, I don't think the combine itself is going to push him out. If I had to give you a hard answer on it, I would say right now it seems like Fuaga's kind of leapfrogged Olu. So if I had to guess, I would say he's probably in that like 11-15 range. I like him a lot. To be honest, I actually prefer his tape to Fuaga. But I think probably how you'll see it come off is probably Alt 1, Fuaga 2, Olu 3, and then I hate to put Mims like it down in that 4 range. Like Mims is just such a hard guy to predict because he's such a freak athlete. Some team might just jump up but that's kind of how I would see it going right now. I would say, just slightly out of the top 10, but not due to the combine.
So I want to get Vogel can react right after this and follow up. Talking about, let's jump right here to the Bears. We'll get to the war room in just a moment here. And just to answer Daniel's question, Mark, you'll see what Mark thinks about 21 and 55 because he'll be a part of the war room mock draft simulator. Ooh. So he can help us kind of figure out what Miami may do at 21 and 55. And that will help answer your question, Daniel. But the Bears, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, I mean, I think they're in prime position. They could do whatever the hell they want. They could say, hey, you know, we're sticking with Justin Fields, and we'll get the King's ransom for number one. Or did they say, hey, we're going to go with Kit Williams? Let's see what Stager hates the most, because Stager's a Packers fan. Or they can say, hey, let's go get Caleb Williams, and let's go trade Fields for whatever pick we can get. We still have pick number 9. So I want to ask you this, I guess a 2-in-1 question here. First off, what do you think the Bears do at 1? And is Caleb Williams worth the first overall pick and or a team trading up to get him?
Let me first ask Steger, what would you hate the most?
Okay, so there's 2 parts to this. NFL me, like NFL non-biased. If I'm the Bears, I'm taking Caleb Williams all day long, because you don't put yourself in that spot to be able to make a great trade from last year to be in that number 1 pick again. And they've been 30, 35 years of horrid QB play, aside from Jay Cutler. Because I respect Jay. Spoken Jay's awesome. But anyways, outside of that, the last 2, Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, I would take them. I feel like Justin Fields is underwhelmed. Only 10 wins in 3 years. It still hasn't even sniffed Bears passing records, which is the lowest in the league for single season passing records. I feel like Caleb should be the no look, go straight up and get him, run to the podium. That's it. Packers me, I want them to keep Justin Fields, because every time we play him, he's crap. I just think Justin Fields is an inconsistent passer, and he collapses in the fourth quarter when the biggest moments come around. So to me, if I'm the Bears, which I would hate, go get Caleb Williams. Packers me, keep Justin Fields for the love of God.
So I think this is probably going to push against that, and I think it'll surprise you guys. I prefer moving back. I think the value that you acquire, even if you go down a few picks, let's say you try to get down to like 3 or something, and you just take, whichever QB gets down to 3, I'm fine with all 3 of those guys. So I think you would get enough to where it warrant, okay, if I can still stay in the top 3 and get one of these QBs, I get enough value out of that to help boost the team around him, and put them in a better situation. So like Williams, it's like, do I take Williams with number 1, or do I take, let's say, Daniels at 3 with all the guys that I could bring in with that, what I'm bringing trade value wise. And then also, I'll be honest, I like Daniels more than I like Williams. So I would take Daniels at 1 over I took Williams at 1 personally. I would say Williams.
They don't do that.
Williams, I really like him. I'll say that first and foremost. Like, I think he's a really good player. But I think 2023 guy was very, very different from 2022 guy. So 2022 tape, you saw a lot less panic under pressure. I thought he looked a little bit more athletic, a little bit more creative outside of the pocket. I thought he was more consistent as a passer, overall as a decision maker, and with his accuracy. And so I think the thing with him for me is, okay, what changed, right? Like, was there something different with him? Like, what's going on with him to where I saw a different guy on 2023 tape than 2022? I think most people have kind of just written that off as, they were having a down season. He was just kind of trying things out there and seeing what worked, and just, but yeah, I would say I would take Daniels at 1, or personally, even over taking Daniels at 1, I would be moving back. I think Williams, if you want to take him 1, I'm fine with that. Like, there's no problem with that. He's a great player, great upside. But I'm always a fan of trying to get extra value where I can.
Oh, that's so interesting, Coach. You could. I'll let Coach respond first. Go ahead, Coach.
See, next time I just need to go with my gut, because I had that same evaluation on Caleb Williams, but everybody told me to go back and watch this 2022 film, and what I saw this year was a completely different quarterback, in my opinion. The Caleb Williams that played Notre Dame last year, I thought impressed, and then the one that I saw, Notre Dame broke him. He didn't win much. He didn't win much after playing Notre Dame, and just didn't look. He just always seemed like he felt rushed, and they didn't have the best offensive line. But still, I felt going into it that I shouldn't have rated him as high as I did. But I let the chirps no more. I'm just going to go with my gut from here on out, Bobby.
There you go.
Hold on. It's interesting too.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's interesting because you were into that question, like, what information do you value the most? Do you value the most recent, or do you value the flashes, right? Like, maybe a guy has a great freshman year or something like that, and you're like, oh, wow, he's a great prospect. Well, if you see him his junior year and he's kind of mediocre, like, is he hurt? Is the situation different? What did they change with the offense? So on and so forth. So I think that's the case with Williams. It's like, did he get so much pressure on him this year that he was a different player? If you put him in the league and put him in a bad situation, you send him to the Bears or something, and he has offensive line struggles, does he have the same issues? Versus if you were to send him somewhere with good offensive line play, what does it look like? So, most recent information versus, previous information that was more favorable to him, how do you kind of balance? There's no real right answer to it, but I tend to lean on the side of what if you show me, this past season, what you are.
Now, the Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins scenario for free agency kind of throws a twist in this, because Russell Wilson just got released. What if he goes and the Bears pick him up and they still draft a QB? They sit the rookie behind Wilson, so that way Wilson can try and help develop him, but also add some better QB play. Or Kirk Cousins, not to the Bears, but other teams like Washington, New England, Atlanta, 8. The whole QB cycle can change because of who wants to trade up, because if they sign a quarterback, that like Russell adding on to that pool along with Kirk Cousins, I feel like is a big game changer for certain teams and could lack the trade up partners for Chicago.
Out of curiosity, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good, bro.
Okay.
How long was it the Fields was did he start immediately as a rookie? I can't remember. I knew they had the whole Andy Dalton's our QB1, and then that didn't happen.
2 or 3 games, and then he came in. It was almost immediately right after Andy Dalton was starting, because Andy Dalton had gotten hurt. I remember.
Yeah.
And I believe in week 1, Fields came in the second week, and then after that, it was Fields getting the start.
Do you think Fields would be a different player right now if he had sat his whole rookie year?
I feel like there's a little part of me that says yes, because I was actually really high on him in terms of just QB athleticism and what he offered from Ohio State. But the thing is Chicago's a QB killer town. So it's tough to say, because if Fields had gone to somewhere like 49ers and started right away, I feel like he still could have been more productive. But I feel like Chicago has also been part of his detriment.
And that kind of goes to the next question I'd have, which is, if you're taking him at number 1, let's say is this staff kind of on like life alert here? Like, is this staff kind of like on the hot seat? And if so, how much are they going to rush this guy into action? Are they going to be patient with him and kind of wait it out?
Second chance. So we'll see.
So I would think if they take him right at number 1, he's in like immediately. It's okay. This guy's
they're not sitting him.
So okay, what does that do to him? We've seen what he looked like at Notre Dame this past year, where he struggled when he got put under pressure. Does he have those answers as a rookie? Can he find his way through it, or is it going to just kind of compounding errors? Because Coach, I don't know if you felt this way. That was what the Notre Dame game felt like to me. It was a lot of compounding errors. He'd make one mistake, and it kind of seemed like, I don't want to say he lost confidence necessarily. He was still trying to make those throws, but just the timing was off. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it was. I was shocked by it, honestly. Like, I just, you hear all the hype, and then just letting the game kind of play out. It like Dave said, it just felt like that snowball effect. Like, one thing happened, and then he'd try and push some throws that he never should have made. So yeah, I definitely feel like it was that snowball effect, and I feel like I've seen it, in other films and stuff that I watched this year, where I felt like he was trying to make some stuff happen without it actually being there.
Yeah, and it seems like that's the narrative for a lot of people on him, right? Is like, he's this guy where he was constantly playing from behind this year, and that's part of why he made the decisions he made, versus like someone like JJ McCarthy was constantly playing ahead. So they had 2 different types of styles they play from. Well, if you're going first overall to the Bears, are you playing from behind a lot now going into the league? Are you going to be a guy who has, the chance to play ahead and kind of do your own thing? So I think that's part of what makes it tricky is do you value the, okay, what situation are we putting this quarterback into, and are we setting him up for success or not?
Let me just say very quick too, because Anthony, we talked about, you brought that up last week, and we talked a little bit on it. We're not going to talk about that anymore, because I don't see any of that in regards to why you're saying Chicago won't draft Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels when they drafted Justin Fields and so forth. So we won't roll with that, brother. Okay. So anyway, But you brought up Drake May. Let me ask this, because you brought up Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Drake May supposedly had some good interviews at the combine, tested well. What are your thoughts on Drake May? Do you think he's a real deal, or do you think he could be a bust material, Mark?
Oh, I hate saying like bust material because a lot.
I know. I'm trying to.
These guys. Yeah, I know a lot of these guys. It's like, oh, it's just situation like Caleb's bust material. Jaden Daniels. They could
call it the Josh Rosen experience. That's what
there
I call
you go.
it.
There you go.
I would say that May, like I said, I'm fine with all three of these quarterbacks that high. Personally, I have it Daniels, but I think it's all a matter of what you prioritize, right? Like, what do you value most in a QB? Do you value a guy who can play in the pocket and play more inside structure? Well, then you're probably going to prioritize a guy like May over Daniels or Williams. May, I would say good arm strength. I really liked his touch. Kind of reminded me almost like a Burrow type with some of the touch throws that he would make downfield. I wish the accuracy in the short and intermediate was a little bit more consistent. I think he has some problems with that, like the Clemson game, for instance, this past year, had some struggles with it. I don't think he's a high-end athlete in terms of his ability to get outside of the pocket, create, so on and so forth. I think he's kind of like a Herbert-esque type guy where he's not necessarily a scrambler, but if you get him under pressure, he can find ways to get out. I mean, it's hard not to like a guy who's going to go probably top 3. So that's all these top QBs have a lot of great qualities with them. So I don't have any hard knocks on them.
One last question. I got to ask about my wild card QB because I thought he played really well for the below average offensive line he had in college, Spencer Rattler, and he looked good in the Senior Bowl as well. So I gotta hear what you say on old Spencer.
Honestly, I think Spencer is probably more of that 3rd, 4th round range. I had a really hard time with him, and the reason being that it felt like how do I put this? I like the touch and accuracy this year.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like when he was pressured, it kind of broke down a little bit. I didn't think he had a lot of outside of structure type traits to him, which is something I value a lot. I thought he looked better against pressure this past year than earlier in his career. I can see why some people view him potentially as a 2nd round type guy. I'm very curious to see how it kind of plays out. It's funny, actually, on the podcast I'm on, I had a buddy who was like, yeah, he's like a Malik Willis type athlete. And I'm like, are you sure? You sure he's going to be a 4.5, 4.6 guy? And then he goes out and runs 4.95. So I think the guys that liked him a little bit athletically might be a little bit harder on him now.
Yeah, he's not a runner, the guy yet. The guy's a passer. And that's
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I think it's with these guys that gets particularly interesting, him and a guy like Michael Pratt from Tulane in the 3rd round range, because you're getting away from that athlete type. Like I think Bo Nix is that athlete type. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, those are all pretty good athletes. And then you get down to that, okay, we're talking guys who are 4.8s, 4.9s. How well do those guys translate to the league now where, so much of the emphasis is on what you can do outside of structure. What can you do when the play breaks down? So I'm curious to see how a guy like Spencer Rattler gets valued by the league. And I would imagine the grade ranges are pretty variable, depending on whether or not you value that outside of structure type stuff.
There you go. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the mock draft war room simulator here. All right.
Good jam right there. I like it.
Right? I know. All right, so make sure.
Wonder who made that puppy.
Make sure I got the right thing pulled up here. There it is. All right. So we're going to use, as we always do, PFN's NFL mock draft simulator. And I've explained to our guest of honor here, Mark Jarvis, of how this works. This will also, before I share this, let me go to Stager. Stager, you watched last week. I don't know if we did it last week, but what we do here, it's different. We don't go ahead and, we used to let everyone have a chance at the simulator, as you remember last season. This year, we're doing it different. We're going to do it all together. We're in the war room. We're going to do the Miami Dolphins draft. Everyone will have an opinion. We'll say, hey, these guys are on the board. Hey, this trade is being offered. Let your voice be heard. Mark, there might be a guy everybody loves, and Mark's going to go, well, hold on a second. I know you're looking at this guy, but you could get this guy right here in the later round or whatever. It's very fun. Tell you what's a lot more fun is, you got people in the back going, watching and we'll go, this draft sucked, but hey, that's how sometimes what happens with your team. You think you're like Miami last year, banging the table for Darnell Washington. What do you do with that pick? You draft Cam Smith. You got A-Chain with the second one. Now we love A-Chain, but Cam Smith didn't play last year. There's times where you go out, you leave the draft, and you go, "What the hell did they do?" Because we don't know any better. But this is how we do it. I think it'd be a lot more fun, and we've been doing it. I think we've done it twice now, and we enjoy it. So, Coach Vogel, Steger, Mark Jarvis, and myself will run the simulator and get into the war room. So let me go ahead and push this.
It's hard to argue with the GM Mark over here. He writes for Lindy.
It's an honor to have him. I'm learning a lot.
I'm just like a little scout in the corner from like the Southwest.
Let's see if I can make this.
I love my Southwest Scouts.
Let me get the other. There's Steger. And let me get Jarvis. Perfect. Good. All right. And I'm not going to be able to see the comments, guys, so forgive me for the people watching. We appreciate you watching. All right. Can everybody see okay? Everybody can see.
That's the background on my screen. There's a baby crap everywhere. My wife's been dumping in the man cave. So,
so we won't entertain trade ups, but we will entertain trade down, trade offers. We'll look at those and kind of use those. But let's roll this bad boy. All right. Caleb Williams and Drake may go 1 and 2. Oh, wait, made an accident.
Marius Mims, what the frick?
Made a mistake because this thing is stupid. There we go. Now we're gonna roll it.
You would have made our lives a lot easier. We could have just watched what the computer picked and just complained about what they picked.
That's right.
Put it down. They're rival.
Bills. F the Bills.
We're not rolling with the Bills. Okay, so first off, before we look, we got 2 trade offers here. All right, we got Tampa Bay, who's offering to trade down for Miami to trade up to 21. You give Miami a first-round pick for next year, which is pretty good. I like that one. And you got the second one here. You'll get an extra pick because Miami's a little limited with their draft capital this season. You trade into the second round, get pick 36, and get an extra pick 40, which I like. Very good.
Well, Steelers took my pick, so
that's right. Steelers took Jackson Powers.
I'm interested in that Washington trade.
Honestly, I would tell Washington to kick rocks if they're offering 2 2s, and we've got 2 1s on the board from
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Oh, all right. So looking
he
at
said
who's
kick rocks.
Kick rocks. So looking at who's on the board, though, as we say, Miami needs offensive line. Every offensive lineman minus right tackle, but still, you can improve on that as well. Wide receiver, defensive lineman, linebacker, safety, all considered here. Is there anybody that you see, at least in the top portion, that is worth the 21st overall pick? Or do you think, hey, you know what, trading down 5 spots and getting an extra first-round pick is worth more than any of the guys sitting on the board?
I'm just upset you skipped over Bo Nix.
What are we looking at a little bit further, like the 29 through like 35 range?
Tyler Guyton.
Okay.
Let me see here.
Marius Mims. Graham Barton. I'd take any of those guys.
We got
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark.
I would just say we got a lot of tackles on the board. So, if you want to drop down, I mean, they're not all going to go, presumably, right? So, 21 to 26, you get the Bucks first rounder. I really like that just because you still stick around with, position of need, offensive tackle. You got a lot of great options
first
still.
Next year. Like, you get 2 first next year.
Do you want to assume Wilkins is gone because that's kind of like the
so it's a scenario, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Let's assume that Christian Wilkins is gone.
Yep.
He's out the door, so that's a prime need as well. So, and again, this is their board. Obviously, his board is different. Steger, mine, Coach. So if there's a guy that you go that obviously is like in the 90s on this board, but you think, hey, no, dude, he's not really in the 90s. This guy's like, in the 30s in mine. Then let me know. We'll look at him. But I think we're all comfortable. Am I right with the 26th overall pick and a first rounder next season?
For 5 spots back, and you gain a first next year. Heck yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And still can get positions of need and offensive tackle.
All right, let's make that deal. Let's use Mark's line, kick rocks to Washington, and we've moved down. And
screw Minnesota.
Screw Minnesota. And there's Cleveland. I think we're good. I think we can hold. At least my opinion. You guys let me know.
I would say
think
hide it, but don't reject it outright, just in case.
All right. So, oops, sorry, stupid thing. There we go. All right. So
Newton's still there. Wow.
Graham Barton's still there. We did lose Mims and Troy Fontano out of Washington, but Byron Murphy still on the board. Tyler Guyton, Graham Barton, Cam Kitchens. What do you guys
Bobby,
think?
What do you feel is the bigger need at this point in time? Offensive line or defensive line? Defensive line? I'd be really tempted with that Byron Murphy.
Yeah, honestly, it's a great question. As much as I know how dire it is with Armstead, we don't know what's going on with that, but I think you got Kendall Lamb. I think there's a chance Miami brings back Connor Williams. Those guard spots, I think, is dire. However, right now, I think it's more important defensive line. I think you got to get somebody to pair up with Zach Steeler, and Byron Murphy sitting there is a pretty good pick. Of course, I know Braden Fitz is still on the board. But what do you think, Mark?
So my thing is, after this first little stack of offensive tackles, like we got through about pick 40 and it dies. After pick 40, offensive tackles are pretty much, hey, they're backup type guys. So if we want to get an offensive tackle, I think we have to do it here. Whereas defensive tackle, I think you might be able to still find value in the second, third round, maybe even a later round guy who can contribute. So I think I like these two options here. I would probably prefer taking an offensive tackle at this point if we're going to take a guy at 26.
I like the way you're thinking.
Breaking news: Bears just traded a 5th-round pick to the Bills for Ryan Bates, an offensive.
There you go.
Just to give you,
F the Bills.
F the Bills.
F the Bears.
All right. So here we go. Let's look at offensive linemen because I think it's a great point by Mark. So let's look at offensive linemen. Okay. So
Patrick Paul's way underrated. I love Patrick Paul. Mark, how do you feel? Patrick Paul.
I'm not a big Patrick Paul guy. I think he's more of a 3rd-round type guy personally. I just don't like the athlete too much, to be honest with you. So I would definitely not consider him. He tested very well. He has good length, but I thought he had struggles against guys with good lateral agility. What do you guys prioritize in your offensive tackles historically? Like, what do you guys tend to like?
Coach?
Preferably, I like the more athletic type that can get out and move in space, but also be extremely valuable in the run game. So a little bit of that mixed. Freaking 6'7", 326. Yes, please.
Do you? Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, but in this, we got to think about this too. If Taron Armstead comes back, Kendall Lamb at the back of the left tackle spot, right tackle you have Austin Jackson. Are we looking more for a tackle? Or are we looking for a guard? That's my thing.
Or guard center.
That's what I was going to ask about. Is because if you look at does this guy have tackle guard flexibility? Like Suamataia from BYU has that. I don't know if Guyton has that. Guyton might be a tackle only. So I think he gives you more flexibility there. And also personally, I have Kingsley over Guyton anyways. So I would prefer Kingsley if you were going to go offensive tackle here. But I'm open to if you like any of these interior guys and more discussing them.
Guyton also, with Mike McDaniels being a zone running offense too, Guyton didn't do a lot of zone blocking at Oklahoma, and that was one of his downfalls. So you got to put someone in there who's going to benefit this offensive line, who's going to be able to pull, who's going to be able to move quick. And even though Guyton looked good in combine, his tape didn't resemble that at Oklahoma when they tried to do it.
Bobby, I'm kind of sold on the interior offensive line, center guard. I mean, I feel like
let's see, Zach Frazier's still there out of West Virginia. Graham Barton, I think again, just like Kingsley is versatile, could play guard, could play tackle, center for Graham Barton. I do like Barton. I like what I'm hearing with Mark with Kingsley. Christian Hines, Cooper Bebe still there. So for me, I'm cool with the versatile prospect. If we're going Graham Barton or Kingsley, I'm down with either one. But I think I like Graham because he can play center, guard, and tackle. And Miami obviously might need him to fill up one of those holes coming into next season.
Can I add a different perspective? I know you're looking at offensive line, but your new defensive coordinator that just came from Baltimore, what position did he coach before he became DC?
linebacker.
So
I think a linebacker's
the front seven a lot more in defensive tackles too, with Byron Murphy being there. That's just me adding in.
But I think what Mark brought up though was a great point. Is that with offensive line especially tackle starts to fall off.
It does. I agree with that.
But
I was just throwing in a different perspective because
But Bobby, if we're saying that if we're saying today that Armstead's coming back and you have Jackson coming back, and we're going to assume that they're going to sign what's his name, the backup to Armstead,
Lamb,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean the interior offensive line is more important than those two tackle positions.
Yeah.
Right. And if we say that, are those two positions more valuable than the defensive tackle? I think if we're not as concerned about tackle, which Mark had brought up earlier, that if we're taking a tackle, this is the time to take him. But if we're not thinking tackle, then I think, that leaves your interior offensive line or defensive line.
All right. So let's do it like this. I'll say for me, I would roll with Graham Barton here. I think he played guard, center, tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, where would you roll?
I'm a Barton fan as well. I think he can play center, guard, both, and I mean he can play all three. He's played all three at Duke, but I like him. I like him inside, interior better.
Mark,
I'll do Barton. That's fine by me.
Steger?
I think him and Kingsley are both fine.
There you go.
I hate it because I love Barton. If Packers at 25 can grab him, I'd do it.
Well, they grabbed a different person, so
it's saying here 5 days ago that Dolphins Pro Bowl left tackle Teron Armstead is set to return in 2024 despite hints of retirement.
Yeah, Chris Greer revealed that it's at the combine that he has not made an actual decision yet. That it's still marked something where he said he'll let him enough time to make plans if he has to retire, but there's no decision yet.
CBS is wrong.
Shocker. All right. So they offer, that's a big drop off, 119, 194. You gain a pick, but you also get a first rounder next year from Seattle. And then you got this one here, 65 and 102. Do we entertain any of these trades?
I would say entertain 65 and 102.
I'm with you.
I'm curious to see I want to see the board first, obviously, to see what's available, what we like here, first and foremost.
Stager, would you entertain any of these deals?
I like that one. What was the previous one?
Let's see here. 119, 194, and a first. Okay.
No, I don't like that one at all.
All right, so let me go ahead and reject the first one, but we'll leave this one here. But let's look at the board.
I like that.
Let's go to all. All right. Ooh. Miami needs a linebacker. Edgin Cooper is there.
LB1, baby.
Rook Ororo and Michael Hall Jr. still on the board.
Cooper being on this offense.
That's linebacker one for me is Edgerrin Cooper. If you need a linebacker, that's the guy to get.
Trotter.
And remember, there's a drop off. Well, there's a drop off after this, so an extra pick wouldn't hurt. We got Michael Hall, Rook Ororo out of Clemson, Chris Jenkins.
Oh, Nikhil Jackson.
On the board.
The mutant.
Offensive center, offensive guard, tackle, receiver, defensive tackle. I think you can still get one of those defensive tackles if you drop back 10 picks.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then we gain one. Yeah,
I'm down with the trade down.
I feel like the linebackers fall off though after Cooper, Wilson, Trot. I feel like they kind of fall off after.
Yeah, that's a good point. We do need, because what's the thought on the linebacker thing, Bobby? You know more about linebackers than I do.
So honestly, I think if you look at the trade offer, you get 102. I like Junior Carlson. I don't know too much on James Williams. I know Anthony brought him up earlier in regards to linebacker. I have to watch more of him.
I like Peyton Wilson.
Peyton Wilson's still there. Will he be there after you move down? Honestly, I'm okay with a trade down because I think you still get a quality defensive tackle and a linebacker at 102 and still feel comfortable. Mark, what are your thoughts, man?
I would say, depending on, I mean, how do you guys feel about the line after getting Barton?
So let's say, okay, so it's Armstead, Barton, Connor.
But say one of
Jackson.
them doesn't come back. Say Jackson or Connor doesn't come back. That leaves a spot.
Well, we know Jackson is back. It's Connor.
Okay.
So
Barton's your center if he can play it, and then Christian Haynes your other guard.
Well, why? Who's catching your eye, Mark? Offensive line. Is it Hines?
Yeah, it's Haynes. If you want, click offense and pop open the guards, and let's see how the guards look throughout the rest of the class. Okay, so there's like a guy like Isaiah Adams I like in the later rounds. A guy like Delmar Glaze isn't on here, but I like him from Maryland a lot. I'd be fine with, if you don't want to go Haynes, if you want to just drop back, collect a pick, maybe go D tackle or linebacker, and then just have that extra pick. We could probably, with that extra pick, get a guard if we wanted to further down. So I'm fine to do it.
How do you feel about Mahogany? Because I heard he had a good Senior Bowl after his rough first day.
I don't think he's looked the same since his injury. I think earlier in his career he looked really good, but I think he just hasn't been the same type of athlete since he got hurt. I think he's a potential low-end starter. You could probably get him in the 4th, 5th. I'm open to getting him down there, but I wouldn't want to spend something this high on him.
Yeah. Oh, no, not now. I was just speaking in general.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll roll with the trade.
Accept it. Yeah, go ahead and accept it.
And there's still a couple other.
All right.
Well, because historically,
Okay, so we've moved down to 65 now.
Yep,
and we
still got your linebacker.
Edric Cooper's still on the board.
Wow.
Defensive tackle.
And we got pick 102. Chris Jenkins is there. Let me go ahead to offensive line for a moment here. Offensive tackle. You got Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame. You got Glaze is there. DeMar Glaze out of Maryland. Talk to me about Glaze, Mark.
Tackle guard type, 6'4", 6'8", 320-ish pounds, if I recall correctly, 34.5-inch arms. Not a super high-end athlete, but I think really consistent in his pass sets, got good hands, good power profile. I think that tackle guard flexibility is what really stands out to me. I believe I wrote him as a tackle, but I think a lot of teams are going to, depending on how they, just how their line forms up, they would be happy with him as a guard. I think he's a starter at both spots. I don't want to say he's a high-end starter, but I think he's kind of a lower mid-tier starter, where he's not a guy who you get looking necessarily to replace. Probably just going to be maybe a one-contract guy, depending on, what he gets offered in free agency. But I think he's a fine guy. I don't know if he would be a guy I'd take at 65 necessarily, but maybe.
Well, we got that 102. We got 102 there, sitting there. Well, we could entertain another trade down, but we got 102, so we could possibly keep Glaze there. What I like about I love players that can play multiple positions, especially at the offensive line spot. So we drafted Barton, he could play center, tackle, or guard. You move him to whatever spot you need, and then if you get Glaze, you could be a swing tackle, put him at the right guard spot, kind of play around with that. So I like that. So if we go back though, Edric Cooper is there. Let me take a look at defensive linemen. Chris Jenkins, Braden Fisk is still there. We know Braden Fisk probably will go higher than 92. Are we comfortable with that? We know that for sure, right?
Yes, probably.
Yeah. So what are your, Mark, we'll start with you, Dave, and then Coach, just your thought. What do you think we should do with this pick? What position should we be looking at?
I'll let you guys go first because you probably are more in tune with positional need, and then I can kind of go from there.
Go ahead, Coach. Good point.
Is there concern of losing our linebacker? Baker is, if there is, I mean, who
casualty possibly if you need to get underneath the cap.
Yeah, I mean, and Dave, didn't you say that Cooper was your highest rated linebacker?
He's my linebacker one all day.
I mean that name keeps popping out at me. Like if he's the best of the bunch, it'd be, especially since it's round 3. I think we need to consider linebacker or defensive tackle, and then maybe pick up another O lineman farther back in the later rounds. In my opinion, I know that we got work to do, but
fair enough. Hey, and we don't know what happens with free agency. We don't know how it plays out. So this is just we're just rolling with this. So you're rolling with Edric Cooper here, possibly a linebacker or a defensive lineman. Stager.
Yeah, I'm going Edgerrin Cooper or Chris Jenkins. That's you got to tighten up the front seven. Watched Miami way too often last year give up some big runs, especially down the stretch in games. You need to be able to have those captains, the linebacker, defensive tackles, make those plays. And I'd be fine with going either one of them. It's down to y'all, your Miami boys.
Hey, I'm banging the
Cooper
table. Look,
Jenkins.
I see Junior Carlson stare there. At 109. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm banging the table right now for Braden Fisk. If he's there at 65 and we just losing Christian Wilkins, I'm going for Braden Fisk. What do you think, Mark?
Honestly, can I see the trade offer again? Do you still have that up?
Absolutely,
for
yeah.
77. So I don't know if it's worth going 12 back for 144. I bring it up because I like the stack at both linebacker and defensive tackle, like Jenkins, Fisk. Those guys I think are kind of in the same boat. Mason Smith I saw a little bit further down. I'd be fine with him here. These linebackers, Cooper I'm not super high on. I think he's fine for second, third round, but I don't think there's a big difference between him and guys like maybe like a Trevin Wallace, Junior Colson. So I think just the number of guys at both positions that I like, I'd be fine moving back and getting the extra value. I think it just depends on how much you guys really would value getting 144.
My thing is, I'm all about adding a pick. If I could trade back, add an extra pick because Miami needs so much, has so many.
Yeah,
needs.
we have so many holes right now. We have so many holes right now.
Do you let's put our who's our top linebackers and who's our top defensive tackles here? Give me like two of each.
All right. So right now, looking at this, let's say
Jenkins,
for me,
Fisk, Cooper, Wilson. Is that it? Sorry to.
No. You're absolutely. That's absolutely fair. Chris Jenkins, Braden Fisk, Chris Jenkins for me on D tackle, and then Cooper Wilson at linebacker, Carlson right behind them.
Yeah.
Everyone's tried to bring up Peyton. My issue is everyone tried to bring up Peyton Wilson's injury history, but he's played 2 years since his injury. So I feel like that's kind of washed and they can't use that. If it was recent, okay, but he's been playing 2 years. 12 spots is a big jump, especially if you're counting on 4 guys to be there. And we've seen defensive front once they get hot in the draft, they'll go one after another.
Yeah.
Let's say all 4 go. Who's the exit? Like who's the plan B here?
So okay, that's a great question. So if we're talking defensive linebackers, linebacker D tackle, if Fisk is gone, Jenkins is gone, Cooper and Wilson, I'm looking at Junior Carlson or let me see here. Go back to all at that point. Would be Bo Braid. I'll go with safety at that point. Yeah. Ben Sennett's still on the board, and we need a tight end.
Cedric Van Pran is also not a bad
center.
Connor, we don't know if he's coming back.
I know. That's
So adding an extra pick, I think there's still be quality players sitting there if you trade down that we like. But I'm comfortable.
I would bet at least one guy's there. I would bet at least one guy's there. If not, well, take the L on that and say, But I think Colson, is perfectly fine there. I like Mason Smith there too. I even like Trevin Wallace there, to be honest. So I think it's worth it. There's this thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with all the Richard Thaler work, basically discussing teams overvalue picking high. There's this idea of like a false consensus, which is like you love your guy, right? And you think he's going to be there or he's not going to be there. Everyone else loves him. You got to go up and get him. When in reality, most people don't really view it that way. Yeah. Most people are looking we're obviously it's just an AI running. But let's say we're sitting here in the war room where we're talking about these guys, all these other teams are probably sitting here like, oh gosh, McKinley Jackson, Kalen Carson, Brandon Dorless, and they're not even looking at our guys, right? So let's just hope we have one that gets to us, and I think we have a good shot at it.
That's such a great point. That's why I love doing the war room thing, man. It's so different. So I'm up for trades. You guys cool with that?
Yep.
All right.
Let's see who we get. Red Rover.
Edger Cooper. All right.
So Cooper's gone.
Jenkins still on the board.
Take it and run with it. Good God. That's my guy right there. If he's still there at round 3.
Chris Jenkins.
Let's see. Is Fisk still there? Fisk is still there, yeah.
Fisk is my guy. So
you got
Hopper and Wilson, Trevon Wallace, and Junior Carlson still on the board. And you
Let's
got
go
102
D-line.
coming up.
D-line. We
All
got to
right,
find
so-
a replacement for
So
Wilkins.
between Chris Jenkins and Braden Fisk. Stager wants Jenkins. I want Fisk. Vogel, what's your pick?
Go for it, Bobby.
Which one? You go.
Go for it. You know
Fisk?
who you want. Grab him. Grab him.
No, but wait.
We know who you want, Bobby.
But wait, we gotta be fair. Mark, Jenkins or Fisk?
Do you value the athlete more, or do you value the tape more? Like, do you value, okay, what's this guy like, his technique and how polished he is, or do you value like what's the upside?
Oh, I will say to talk about tape. I love Fisk's tape over Jenkins, and I think he's just I love it. I just think he's a phenomenal athlete. Love his energy. Love his motor. Him with Zach Sealer on that defensive line. He could get to the quarterback, something that Christian Wilkins struggled with.
Can I add in one thing?
Yeah.
Chris Jenkins made the game-winning play in the national title game. Just saying.
Pedigree.
The gamer.
And another thing is Stephen Ross, owner of the Dolphins, did go to Michigan.
Guy. There you go. There you go.
And we know he likes the medal.
Bobby's heart is torn now. Bobby's heart is torn.
No, I know who Bobby wants.
I'm not torn. I'm just I try to look at both ways there. Come on, Mark.
Let's go Fisk.
Tear the Band-Aid off, man.
Let's do Fisk.
I love both. I just I guess I'm a mute.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys. We just won the Super Bowl this year. I'm telling you right now. No. All right. So
that's not bad.
Ooh, that's not bad at all.
Basically trading up from 239 to 148.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it. I like that.
Dropping 14.
Yeah.
Do we want to look at who's available? Do we?
Yeah, sure. Let's look and see what we've got here.
All right,
so we're still looking at linebacker, right?
So there's linebacker, tight end, O-line. Go ahead.
Don't y'all need a tight end?
Yes, we do. Yeah, absolutely.
Kate Stover's not a bad prospect right there. He did pretty good things in Ohio State.
He's trash. I'm kidding.
I love everyone's trying to be analytical. He's trash.
Well, he's trash.
Blake Corum, Packers pick, take all day right there.
Just started watching him today, man.
He's a
crazy,
fun running back.
Dude was crazy. Yeah, I liked what I was watching. But yeah, Mark, what are you thinking, man? Looking at these guys here, obviously, tight end is a need. I don't know if you've been studying tight ends at all.
Can I see? It was tight end, offensive line, and linebacker, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I see each of those? Okay. All right. I like a little bit of the depth there at tight end. These top four guys here, I like all of them.
Well, that's the thing too. If you look later too, Miami needs a tight end, obviously, who could catch and be a play. But you need someone who can block. And you look at Jared Riley, Holker, McKalen Castles, Theo Johnson.
I'm a huge Holker fan.
Go to
Keep
defense,
in your pants, buddy.
Linebacker, Jalen Ford, Eichenberg there, who had a good combine.
Maris Liafu.
Yes, I love Liafu plays with his hair on fire. I love his tape.
Dominic Puny still on the board from Kansas.
I will say I really like Bortolini. He's probably a center only, so Barton would probably be playing guard in this scenario.
Okay, 124 Bartolini. Okay.
In linebacker, who's further on down the board? Who's past like the 175 range? Because we lost Colson, we lost Trevin Wallace, we lost a lot of guys we really liked.
Lafu from Notre Dame. You got Eichenberg, as we said. Let me try to go a little further down here. Sorry.
Yeah, so it looks like it falls off pretty bad.
Yeah,
I like McGee. McGee might be good down into the late round. I like Bertrand. Bertrand might be a good late.
JT Bertrand from Notre Dame.
I think about Tyrese Knight out of UTEP.
I'm not a huge fan of him. He to me he felt like a low murder guy who wasn't getting off blocks very effectively. Not a super impressive athlete on tape. I would prioritize probably tight end, but I'd lean trade down and just take which tight ends left. Unless you guys have a whole burn in your pocket to get No,
I think
pick on a center or a guard or something
No.
like that.
no, I'm good because
that.
you're trading up. You're trading down from 239 to 148, and even trading down 102 to 116. You're still getting a good tight end, in my opinion. I think there's still some depth there at tight end. Let's see.
Can I add in? There's a huge inside linebacker market for free agency this year.
True.
That also could be a thing where Miami goes out and gets one. You got Patrick Queen, you got Levante David, you got Devin White. Those are just some top names right there, and there's others out there. So maybe.
Damn, look at that hole.
Whoa!
That doesn't feel realistic at all to me.
No, it doesn't. No, compared to the other ones.
What? New Orleans was the team that gave up their whole draft class to go get Ricky Williams. So.
Ricky Williams, yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm fine with
I'm good.
waiting.
I'm good at stating. I'm staying put. I'm good at staying put now.
What do we got at tight end here?
So we got Jaheim Bell, which Josh Wingate likes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go ahead. Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry.
Theo
Johnson, Jared Riley out of TCU, Dalen Holker, Colorado State.
I'm a huge Holker fan.
What are you thinking, Mark?
It depends. Are you looking for a bigger tight end, or are you looking for an athletic pass catcher? Like, what's the prototype you're looking for?
Like I said, for me, but I think we might, you want a pass catcher, but you want someone who could block as well. That's something because we had Mike Gesicki, and Mike Gesicki was one of the better pass catchers in football, but he couldn't block, and Miami didn't use him. So I don't know if there's anybody there where they go, oh, we need a Dalton Kincaid. Obviously, not getting a Dalton Kincaid, but that guy didn't fit Miami. You want a guy who could, he can make a play, but you want to, and maybe be that red zone threat, but you want a guy who can block. And so when I'm looking at, you think of Theo Johnson, but Jared Riley, Dalen Holker, Castle's another one.
I would lean between Wiley and Theo Johnson. I'm fine if you want to flip a coin to however you guys want to determine between those two.
I'm a Theo Johnson guy. I don't mind Wiley, but Theo Johnson's. He won me over at the combine.
Okay. What do you think, Coach?
Let's go for it.
Theo Johnson, tight end.
Yep.
There you go. Got the tight end. And hey, you know what? Miami showed interest in him last season when they were looking at his partner there last year.
Why is Gutekunst giving up 4 picks? Who's on the damn board?
Let's accept it just because it's Stater. No, I'm just kidding.
And I'm
right. All right. So what 144 here? Next pick is 148. So just a few picks down. Isaiah Adams is still on the board, guard out of Illinois. You got Thomas Harper out of Notre Dame, Coach Vogel.
Yep.
Let's look at the current draft. Let's look at what we've done so far. Okay, we got 3 picks in. We got a offensive guard. We got a tackle, and we got Theo Johnson, tight end.
4 picks away from each other too here.
Yeah,
that's right. So,
and who's still available at linebacker?
Aaron Casey, Therese Knight, Tommy Eichenberg, and Maurice LaFou.
Liafau is a good one. Still I like him.
I do too. I love Liafau.
I don't like those.
Dad mode engaged.
So are there other major positions of need that stand out? Or are we kind of just trying to pluck value here?
What about safety? Can I ask that? Because the new defensive coordinator.
No, absolutely. Safety is
a lot of 3 safety.
Safety, even wide receiver is something to look at. Remember, we were looking at Wingate brought it up last week. The Miami's current or the depth chart right now, and they only have 3 receivers on contract, which is Waddle, Hill, and Izakama. So I think a receiver is still a need, and we're at a prime spot here. Anaya Smith is someone they met at the combine.
Ooh, Jalen Coker. I like him on Holy Cross.
From Holy Cross. Excuse me. This is a time too, where you're getting that, you're in the bread and butter of the draft now, where obviously scouting is going to really matter. You're trying to find those hidden gems. Is there anybody that you see so far, Mark, that will jump out to you as like, man, this guy would be a quality football player?
Can you
no matter the position?
Can you show me the receivers and kind of run it down the board real quick and just see who's into the 200s, 300s range?
Yeah, let me do it this way. So here we are. Okay. Isaiah Williams, Illinois. Joshua Cephas, UTSA. Anthony Gold, Oregon State.
I would say of all these guys, if you wanted to wait a little bit on Coker and take him with one of these future picks, that's fine. Flournoy would be fine as a later round guy. Depending on what you're looking for, Gould might be a fine later round guy. Same with Cornelius Johnson. Don't love any of this receiver group here. I think Isaiah Adams really stands out to me because I think he has starting potential as a guard. Played a lot of right tackle this past year, if I recall correctly, because of injuries. But I think he's probably a starting guard in the league. I know some people like Mason McCormick, Javian Cohen, probably a starting guard as well. But I think Adams might have right tackle ability in a pinch, whereas I think Cohen's probably purely a guard. So I think both those guys are pretty interesting. And Cohen, you could play the Miami angle if you wanted to be in,
True. I will say, again, when you tell me a guy could play guard, tackle, that sells me. I think you're getting good depth here, good value. I'm cool with Isaiah Adams here at this pick.
Do you want to check tackle real quick to see if they have any guys I really like there that are hanging around here?
Absolutely. You got Matt
Christian Jones, baby.
Christian Jones still on the board. But Darius Henderson out of Michigan.
You sound like you really like Christian Jones. How do you feel about him?
Stager?
I think he has underrated value. I really like his size and the way he moves. He's been there for how long, and they've had productive running backs coming out with Bijan last year, Jonathan Brooks this year, plus the running back that went to the Bears as well last year. He was a big part of it. I feel like he'd be a good fit in Miami. That's just me. But that's 182. We're at 140, so that's later on. If he's there, I'd love that pick.
Okay. You want to do Adams right now and then see what we're looking at 148?
Yeah. Sounds good.
If Isaiah Adams is a starting guard right now, I'd definitely go for it.
Yeah.
All right.
I think at wide receiver after Baker, there's probably a good fall off here. So if you want a wide receiver, he'd probably be my primary guy that you're looking at here. Or
what's his size? How tall is he?
I think he's 6'1", 205. Let me look real quick.
Okay. Let's see.
He's a bigger guy. Not huge, but he's up there. He is 6'0", 202. So 6'1.5", 202 pounds.
Okay. And receiver, again, is something that Miami,
He's got a wingspan of 78 inches.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Let's go Baker. I'm cool with Baker. Let's just go Baker.
Keep him in-house. Coach? Keep him in-house. Keep him in Florida.
There you go. We comfortable with that, guys?
He was also at Alabama and transferred out of there to go to UCF as well. So he has pedigree for wide receiver. He just transferred out and went to UCF.
All right. 3 more picks. Let's see who we still, again, linebacker.
Yeah, who do we have at linebacker? Oh, Leafau. You think it's too high to take him?
What all picks do we have right now?
We have 3 picks left. We're 157, 186.
He might be there at 186.
200.
Who would you prefer living without, Leafau or Christian Jones?
Ooh. Because say Armstead goes down again and and I'm not saying it's going to happen, say Lamb goes down.
I agree. I think maybe you go Jones here.
How bad is the need at linebacker to where Leafau would be? Because that's my question, is because we've already taken 2 offensive linemen.
Yeah, for me, I think linebacker is dire because if you're going to lose Jerome Baker and even before
that's
Jerome
my concern.
Baker, Miami,
Martin can play tackle too, so
that's true. And I'll roll with you guys because my pick here, if we're going linebacker, would probably be Tommy. But if you Maurice Leafau, let's roll with it. Get a linebacker.
How much do you guys value speed and just in general athleticism?
I do.
I mean, you got to have it to be able to pursue
100%.
the angles coming around the corner. You got to be able to, especially range on the coverage. You've got to be able to close that window to be able to knock that pass down or immediately meet the ball carrier.
How much do you value versatility in terms of like guys who can come up and rush, like as a blitzer and things like that?
And they do that. And what's y'all's defensive coordinator's name again? I always forget. I know he came from Baltimore.
Anthony Weaver.
Yeah.
Weaver. I was going to say Walker. Weaver.
And he's done that. He blitzes with Queen and the linebacker they got from the Bears. He does that all the time when he was there in the linebacker room. So Leo Fau does that. I mean,
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Leofau has a lot more pass rush juice to him. Longer guy. Okay. I think Eichenberg's more of a traditional inside linebacker. I worry about both of those guys if you're going to put them into coverage situations, but I think Leofau has a little bit more in terms of versatility that might add a little bit more value to it.
We have one too many Eichenbergs already. I'm just kidding.
Do that. All right. So are we rolling with the Notre Dame linebacker?
I am, but I'm just one person.
All right. Let's do it.
Is Christian Jones still there?
Let's take a look.
Nope.
Yep.
He is.
Oh, he is.
I wouldn't even blink.
Yeah. Take it.
Cool with it, you guys. Let's do it.
Don't blink.
Yeah.
There we go. Is this our last one here?
This is the last one. Yeah.
This is it.
Do we want to entertain quarterback?
Oh God, no. Is Michael Pratt still here? Like that's the only way I'm touching quarterback. Or is Radler maybe? Oh God, no. Jason Bean.
Yes.
No.
You don't
no
want
quarterback.
Bradley out of South Alabama?
No
How
quarterbacks.
dare you?
So I tend to think of it. You kind of have certain stacks, right, by position.
Brevin Spanford.
And after you hit a certain
big
stack level, like it just dies. Quarterback, it dies after Radler and Pratt.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I'll ask you right after this because I want to ask you about a quarterback, just on someone. But okay, so Ford is there, but we did get Hall. Evan Williams out of Oregon is there. Carson Steele. Ooh, my guy's DeAndre Tyler Demerson, Texas Tech safety.
Hell yeah, right there with you.
Like him. And we need a safety.
You guys cool with that?
Yeah.
DDT.
You guys have seen the tape.
You sure no one wants Bean? Nobody wants Bean at quarterback? No one at all. Okay, we're not.
He's probably gonna move to wide receiver.
Well, we need one. No, all right. I think that will wrap it up.
Bean went.
Did Bean get drafted? There you go.
Bean just got picked.
All right, there you go, guys. So with the first pick, we got Graham Barton, who could play guard, center, tackle. We got Braden Fisk, defensive lineman out of Florida State, to replace.
How many picks did you start out with, Bobby?
What do we got? Is there 5 picks for Miami? You got a first, second, a fifth, 6, 7.
Yeah.
So now you bumped it from 5 to 8 and a first for that's.
We got a first round. Yeah. So
Chris Rear, you're fired.
Hire this group right here, us.
Yeah,
we will do this.
Right.
Theo Johnson, Isaiah Adams, Javon.
I will just say this, though, Bobby, with some of those trade things, we could have had 2 more first round picks, 4 first round picks next year. And this thing were legit.
Why are you gonna ruin it?
I'm not at all because I think
you sound like Evan right now.
No. But having 4 first round picks next year, that'd be the Miami Dolphins with the second pick of the first round.
And then they would fire Chris Greer, so a new GM can properly use them.
That's right.
Let's see.
Again, Bobby, 2 hours. Watch out, Pat McAfee.
I'm saying. I was trying to look at some of these comments very quick.
They hate us, don't they?
Well, I told people I couldn't see the comments as I was doing that, so I was only want to go back. And let's see. The last one here is if we lose Wilkins and Hunt, I would love to hear we picked up Patrick Queen. All right. So how about a nose tackle? No nose tackle on the roster. We'll see. We'll see what happens in free agency.
Guy that would be interesting there is Justin Rogers from Auburn. I didn't realize that nose tackle was a need, but he'd be one of note that you could look for in the later rounds.
There you go.
We could just say we signed him as a UDFA in this run.
That's right. Unrestricted. Yeah.
Hopefully he won't draft.
Daniel, don't be hating. We got him as an unrestricted free agent, brother. Come on, man. You didn't see the whole picture. No, just playing. Man, Mark, let me tell you, dude, this was awesome having you on.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Let me ask you this. What did you think of the War Room Simulator?
That's awesome.
Chime in. Wasn't that kind of cool? I love it. I think it's so cool that you don't just, I'm going to go with it. Because we all have our own singular view. But when you have everybody else going, but dude, your questions were great. When you're like, well, what do you guys need here? Do you prefer this? And so it opens up and you go, wait a second. No, this might be the better move to make.
Yeah.
But absolutely, dude. I hope that I would love to get you on some future episodes because I think this was great whenever you are available. Hopefully we could work that out because I'd love to get you on here. Stager, what'd you think, my man? First episode in of the season. You ready to roll? Ready to get to work?
Maybe.
All right. Good enough.
Yeah, I'm in.
There you go.
Just don't put me with you know who, Mr. Evan Posner.
Oh, fuck.
Love you, Evan. All love, buddy.
But before we wrap this up, Mark, any final words for you, brother?
I appreciate you guys having me on. Like you mentioned the War Room Simulator, that was a lot of fun because I know the players from writing profiles on them and all that, but I don't necessarily know what each team needs. So when you can kind of lay out, hey, this is what we're looking for. Hey, this is what we like. I can kind of just filter. Hey, we got 5 linebackers here. What do we like in linebackers? And I can just go right to it. Yeah. Okay, these 2 guys stand out. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun chopping it up with you guys and like you mentioned, hopefully I can be on here sometime pre-draft. We can get on maybe a couple more shows in.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, brother. And maybe we'll do it in a scenario too, where we do like, okay, we brought back Armstead is coming back. We're cutting Jerome Baker, so that way we know going in who we think is what's going to happen, so that way we have a clear picture. Stayer, any final thoughts?
Oh, well, I was going to ask for Mr. Jarvis's Twitter @, so we could Jarvis Scouting.
Right.
Yeah,
Jarvis Scouting.
You've got a follow for me, sir.
JarvisScouting.com. Is that right?
I learned a couple things tonight, and I appreciate it from looking at it on analysis wise and breaking it down. And I appreciate your outlook on it. So I definitely learned a couple things.
I appreciate it.
Awesome, Coach. What do you got, my man?
Man, this was awesome. Another good show. Another 2-hour show. I love it.
Hey, you can't keep track of time when you're having fun. I told poor Mark he'd be here 15 to 20 minutes. 2 hours later, he's like, okay.
That's fun. I love the longer stuff.
He didn't look too upset while evaluating these players. He was in his zone, man. I was looking. He's like, let me see those positions. Let me see that position.
I'm telling you, I think it's so much better than just straight up mock draft. I think having a group of people working on one draft, it kind of gives that different insight. Because like Dave, you kind of pulled me away from one guy. You're kind of like, oh, the Chris Jenkins between Brandon Fitz. It's like, ooh, okay. And I'm seeing, I'm hearing both ends, and that happens. If I'm by myself, I'm hitting Brandon Fitz. But if Dave's telling me, well, wait a second, Chris Jenkins, and Mark's saying, but what are you looking for? Because this is what we're going to need. Then it's like, damn, I love Brandon Fitz, but okay, you know what? Chris Jenkins makes more sense here. If we went Fitz, but that's why I love the War Room Simulator. I think it's just an awesome concept that we're pulling here. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching, whether you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. I guess it's X over Twitter, but whatever. We appreciate you. If you're watching anywhere, no, but if you're watching anywhere other than YouTube, pop on over, hit that like and subscribe button. We're here every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern talking draft. We haven't decided yet what position we're going to scout, but I'll get with Wingate and we'll work it out to do our spotlight next week. Until then, we appreciate you. For Fin fans, like, subscribe, most importantly, fins up.
It's the Fins Talk Sports Network, FTSN, talking major sports and even wrestling. Bobby Fins Talk and his FTSN crew. They're taking deep dives just to entertain you. Talking Dolphins, Heat, and Hurricanes. Marlins and Panthers and Inter Miami. Fins Talk Sports Network. FTSN. Yeah.
Miami Dolphin fans, let me ask you something. Do you love the Dolphins? Do you think they are the greatest football team? How about the greatest show on surf? If you answered yes to any or all of these questions, then fins up and surfs up to the greatest show on surf.shop today. Celebrate the most explosive offense in the NFL with this awesome exclusive merch. From jackets, hats, shirts, and more, they have it all. Use promo code FINSTALK and save 15% on your order. Show off your fandom. Don't wait. Go to the greatest show on surf.